Hey guys, my name is Rob Noire, and today I have a very special video for you. Today I have a game room tour. Now I used to do this every single summer for the past several years, although last year I actually skipped making this video. It was because my game room was really kind of a mess at the time. Like, I was building a lot of shelves, there was just stuff everywhere, and it was just not a good time to go and visit last summer. However, this summer I've kind of got it put together the way I want. I think it's looking pretty nice, so I figured why not do a video on it. Alright guys, let's go have a look on the inside here. So the first thing of note is that this is not just my game room, this is also my recording studio for when I make videos like this. This is for recording my videos, for editing my videos. This is kind of like an everything kind of room. And also, unlike a lot of the big collectors on YouTube, I don't own a house. I don't have an entire basement that I can devote to building out an entire setup, an entire game room. I just have this one little bedroom. I have a 2-bedroom apartment. There's the master bedroom and the smaller one. And the smaller one, I have converted into this. So I really try and make use of the space as best as I possibly can, which is why you notice I've gone very vertical. I have a lot of shelves going up. I have a lot of different things. But I figured in this video I would kind of show you some of the tips and tricks that I've used to kind of build out my game room in such a small space, as well as go over some like the cooler things in my collection, like I'm looking at them over there, maybe some of my favorite games or the cooler games that I have here. Alright guys, let's dive right into it. So first up, I figured why not start with something that I'm sure all of you are interested in, which is which consoles do I actually have hooked up in my game room ready to go at a moment's notice. So I tried to get them all more or less in the same shot here. It's a little hard and we'll zoom in as I talk about them, but starting on the very top, on the very left there is my Xbox One. Now I do actually like my Xbox One a lot. It probably gets the most use out of all my consoles in my game room, but 99% of that use is actually as like a media player for YouTube or for Netflix, so not so much about the games, but it is a great console that's very easy to use, and I love the backwards compatibility feature. The next up over here, you'll see my Windows laptop. Now this doesn't get a ton of use, but it's an older Windows laptop that is actually able to play games from as far back as like the early 90s. And if I remove the keyboard here, this is my VCR. And you might be wondering, why do I own a VCR in 2020? I actually get asked this a lot. The reason that I own a VCR is if you ever want to play a very, very old console, I'm talking like the original Atari 2600 or stuff from that era, going all the way up to the original NES, they only output video using something called RF. And the easiest way to turn RF into composite is using a VCR. You can do RF in, composite out. So that's why I own this 100% for that. It doesn't get a lot of use, but I want to have the option to do that if ever I need to. Then right next to that, you'll see my original model PlayStation 3. Now the first thing I did when I got this is swap out the hard drive for a much larger modern hard drive. And that's something you can do on all of the PS3s. They make it really easy. The reason why I have this original model though is because it actually lets me play PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 3 games. And it up-reses at 2 HD, it looks pretty good. Like, I have no complaints. This is a great console to own. You have to take special care of it though, because they're very prone to overheating or getting clogged up. But if you don't mind doing that, it's a great way to play all of the early PlayStation titles. Now below the Xbox One, I have my AVS. Now this is a third-party FPGA console that plays NES games, original Nintendo. It only outputs 720p, but it's widely available. It's not that expensive, and overall it's really solid. Right next to that is a console that's gotten a lot of use over the years, my N64. Now this N64 is modded. It has the Ultra HDMI mod and it outputs 1080p HD. I use this console a lot. I love the N64. It's one of the consoles I grew up with. Next to that is my Nintendo Switch in the original dock. My Switch actually goes back and forth from my living room to in here. In my living room I just have this USB-C dongle. I did a video on that. Just click the eye that's going to appear in the corner if you want to see all about that. But the Switch actually also gets a fair bit of use. Nintendo's been killing it this generation, and they deserve some recognition for that. Next to my Switch, though, is a console where Nintendo didn't really kill it so much, and that is the Wii U. Now, I do like the Wii U. I think there's a lot of great games on the Wii U, but Nintendo really kind of dropped the ball with this one. One of the upsides to the Wii U, though, is that it also lets me play original Wii games, and it upscales them to 1080p. They don't necessarily look the best, but there are some ways around that. Then down below the AVS here, I have my original DOL001 Gamecube, and this is hooked up with an Eon HD adapter. Like some of the other consoles, I always hook my Gamecube up to the M Classic device. But the Gamecube's a great console. I've been playing a lot of it recently. I actually just recently got into the game Pikmin, which I had never played before, and I ended up playing for 6 hours straight into the wee hours of the morning. Gamecube, amazing console, very underrated. Next up beside that is my Super Nintendo, although it is third party. It's another FPGA console. This one's by the company Analog. This outputs in 1080p. It's extremely accurate to original hardware, and I love this thing. I use it to play all my Super Nintendo games, zero regrets. Then besides that is its brother, the Analog Mega SG. Now this is another FPGA console, but this one does Sega Genesis, and it also does 1080p and is extremely accurate to original hardware. One of the cool things about this though is that it also works with the Sega CD, which is what you see underneath the console here. And it also came with an adapter to play Master System games. And next to that, my final console that's hooked up is my Retron 77. Now this is made by Hyperkin, and it is an emulator console, so it's not the best. It also outputs in 720p, but I do have it running some homebrew firmware that makes it a lot better than it was out of the box. It plays original Atari 2600 games. Now the way I have these consoles hooked up in my setup is really simple. They all run to two 5-input HDMI splitter boxes. It takes in 5 inputs from 5 consoles and outputs it all along one HDMI cable. And it's also worth noting that I have more or less all of the consoles that I will often use hooked up to one box, and all of the consoles that are very rarely used, like say the Retron 77 or the Sega CD, hooked up to the other box, and these are all on their own power bar. So if I want to play some of those, I just turn on the power bar and then they're all running. And I do this because that way the consoles that I use very often are always hooked up and always good to go at a moment's notice, and the stuff that's a little bit more rare, well, I just flick a switch on my power bar, turn it on, and then they're good to go. But I can leave them off. They don't need to be on all the time, you know? And alright guys, why don't we look a little bit at my recording setup? So generally speaking, when you see me in a YouTube video, I'm usually sitting here on this couch. This couch was very cheap. It's from IKEA. I liked it because it's small and very square, so it's easy to fit into kind of like a game room kind of situation. It's just very compact and it's comfy, so I can't really complain. But what you don't see is what I have over here and over here. In the front here, I have my 4K monitor with the Wii sensor bar mounted on top. I have my 2 mics to record off of so me and a friend can record simultaneously, speakers, and some storage for some random crap, of course. On the side here, I have my iMac that I use for recording, editing, streaming. This computer I use for literally everything. My iMac is also hooked up to my 4K monitor as well as my console, so I can have whatever on there that I want. And it also has what's called PIP, or picture-in-picture, so I can have multiple screens going on at once. It can be really cool, and it really helps with the workflow. Alright, now moving on to the shelves and things that litter the sides of this game room. Well, first you're going to notice that purple foam everywhere. That helps kind of like soundproof this room because the acoustics in this room are really terrible, so it kind of helps with the audio quality and recording. Behind that though, you're going to notice this giant shelf full of tons of crap. This is all audio recording stuff. It's like spare mics, spare microphone cables, external hard drives, boxes, camera cases, all that. This is just to help me with my recording setup. Nothing to do with gaming, but just it is there in the corner if I need it. So a tip that I actually found from somebody else's game room tour, I can't remember if it was My Life in Gaming or if it was Metal Jesus Rocks, but is I actually have these over the door hangers. They're usually used for like laundry or storage, but in them I put my game controllers. And I actually also have these on the main door that opens up to this room, not just over the closet. Now it's not necessarily the most organized method, but it works for me. Right next to this though are my shelves piled high to the wall with gaming stuff. Now there's not a lot of games here, but there are some. So we'll start from the top here. At the very top I'm storing a bunch of extra boxes, like there's my Ring Fit box, an Ocarina, some amiibo boxes. The shelf below that is some collector's editions and some other just kind of cool stuff like the Slime Rancher there. And then step below that is a bunch of PlayStation related stuff and some cables. Below that was originally my N64 related stuff, but as you can see it's been a little overrun. And below that is a shelf of Sega Genesis, CD, and 32X stuff. Below that is a shelf on NES stuff, then Nintendo Switch, then Xbox, then miscellaneous. Now originally my plan for these shelves here was to build kind of like almost a little shrine to each different console. Like have like a shrine to the N64, a display for the Sega Genesis, a display for NES. But as like the stuff has just accumulated over the years, it's kind of filled up more than that. But that was the original plan here. So here, let's start diving into the games. Here on that original display, the bottom 2 out of 3 shelves have been overtaken by Nintendo Switch and my Xbox collection. As you can see, I have quite a few Switch titles here, and below that is my original Xbox, Xbox 360, and Xbox One. As you can see, I don't own a lot of Xbox titles, but I do have a respectable collection. I think I got a lot of the heavy hitters. Special shout out on the Switch goes to this Gree Collector Edition, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, of course, or, knowing me, Ring Fit Adventure. Special shout out on the original Xbox goes out to Jade Empire, a very fun RPG by BioWare. On the Xbox 360 to the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, which is still my favorite Elder Scrolls game to this day. Or on the Xbox One to the Gears of War Ultimate Edition, a really fun way to play these classic games with better graphics, with friends, super fun. Now, one of the cool features that I've added to my game room just within the last few months is some new lighting. So I actually have my phone open and I have an app, and if I click this, as you saw, lighting. One of the cool things is that it's fully programmable. You can make it flash different colors or whatever color you want it to. So there's a lot you can do with this, and it's kind of fun. So at the very top here, you can see I have kind of like a Game Boy and Amiibo figurine collectible display up here. The Game Boy display is not fully complete, but I do think it's pretty cool, and I've been working on that for a while. I've got Game Boy Colors, original Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Light, Game Boy Advance, Advance SP. All I'm missing is a Game Boy Micro. And these shelves above the Game Boy display, I'm using to just kind of display some of the cooler stuff I have. Like I have all my Elgato capture card capture stuff, and then next to it over here, you might notice those games. Those are actually like some games from my childhood. Kuala Lumpur, Journey to the Edge, Civilization 3, Diablo 2, Dungeon Keeper 1 and 2. Just some cool PC games that I kind of wanted to display a little bit. And of course, you can't go wrong with a set of bongos for Donkey Kong Jungle Beat on the Gamecube. And at the very top here are a bunch of my empty boxes for consoles, for games, for controllers. Just the kind of stuff I want to keep because they're kind of collectible, and I kind of do like displaying them. I'm really running out of space here though. And I will say, I had to really Tetris these all into place. So if anybody tells you that video games cannot help you in real life, they're wrong, because Tetris can help you stack your video game boxes. And that is totally a life skill we all need, right? And on that shelf below the PC games, where all my collectibles are, I've got a few cool things here. Like I've got the Eon GCHD GameCube box, which just looks awesome. I've got like this NES cartridge USB key, all of these kind of holders for like video game related candy. And I have my Amiibo collection, which is pretty small because I'm not huge into like figurines and stuff, but my Amiibo collection in the middle here. And then if you scroll over slightly over here, I've got the Game Boy printer and also a collectible coin for the 1000th episode of Good Mythical Morning, a YouTube show that I really like. And then onto some more video games. And the way I really have it divvied up is my loose cartridges go on these 2 shelves on the sides, as well as like the smaller disc-based stuff. And then all the complete in-box cartridges, discs, and all that go in the middle. And I kind of split it up to kind of maintain symmetry. You'll see what I mean. So over here is part of my NES collection, but then the other side is on this other shelf. Now I don't own a lot for the NES. It's kind of before my time, but I do enjoy the console, and I pick them up here and there when I see a good deal. So I'm slowly starting to grow it out. Some personal highlights from my NES collection here would be Log Jammers, a homebrew by Megacat Studios, super fun. Gradius, a side-scrolling shooter that I absolutely love. Or of course Super Mario Bros. 3 and the original Legend of Zelda. Above that, sitting on top of these shelves, if you didn't notice, is my original Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. I have these in kind of like these acrylic nail displays, which is a tip I got from the channel My Life in Gaming. And I think they look pretty good if you have a small Game Boy collection. It's a decent way to display them. If you have a huge collection though, you would kind of need a lot of these in a lot of space. Special shoutouts on the original Game Boy to Super Mario Land, on the Game Boy Color to Link's Awakening DX, and on the Game Boy Advance to The Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap. Below the NES cartridges on this side is kind of a motley assortment of loose cartridges. I have like the few Genesis games that I do not currently own complete in box there, a 32X game, a Master System game, some like cartridge adapters, some Famicom games, just kind of like an odd assortment that just fits into the shelf there. Below that though is my Super Nintendo game collection, complete with the Super Game Boy and the Super Game Boy 2 on the side there. For the Super Nintendo, I find that most of the good games are pretty expensive, so I go for a really quality over quantity approach here, but I definitely think I have a lot of the heavy hitters for sure. For Super Nintendo, special shout out to A Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Donkey Kong Country 2, and The Legend of Zelda BS here, which is actually another homebrew fan hack remake kind of thing of the original Legend of Zelda game. I haven't played much of it, but it's super cool looking. And on the shelves below that is my N64 collection. And now, again, I don't have a ton of N64 games. I really went for the good ones over just owning a ton, which I think is a good philosophy for any kind of system collecting anyways. Try and get the good ones, don't try and get every single one unless you have like a ton of space. I feel like I do have a bunch of the heavy hitters here as well. For the N64 here, a special shout out to Conker's Bad Fur Day, of course Banjo-Kazooie and Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Pokemon Snap. Like, there's a lot of really good games on that system. Then below that, other than some miscellaneous storage, I have my old PC games. Now again, these can be kind of hard to play on modern computers, but I definitely like owning them, and it reminds me of games to look for on, like, you know, like GOG or Steam whenever they come there. These are all very solid games from my childhood that I really enjoy. Special shoutouts for the old PC games would be, again, Kuala Lumpur and Diablo 2, or Red Line Racer, a very fun game from my youth. On the other side is my PlayStation 1 collection, which is very small because collecting for the PS1 has gotten very expensive. So again, I'm really just going for the games that I personally enjoy and not trying to build out the collection. Special shoutouts for PS1 go to Final Fantasy Origins and Final Fantasy 7 and 8, of course, and Valkyrie Profile. Valkyrie Profile being a game that actually took me forever to track down. And on the shelves even further below that, if you can see them, are my Atari 2600 games. Again, I don't own a lot of these. I'm not like a big Atari fan. It's never really been for me. It's a system way before my time, and graphically and gameplay wise, most of them aren't really to my liking, but I do have a respectable collection here, and I picked most of these up for only a couple dollars each, so it's not expensive to collect for the Atari 2600. Special shoutouts on the Atari 2600 go out to Freeway, a very fun game, Hero, a very challenging game, and this really cool homebrew Terrence and Phillip game. Okay, and then this is the point where we move on to the middle shelf, which is my disc-based games and my complete in-box Sega games. Now, the Sega Master System, Genesis, and 32X are probably the only consoles that are cartridge-based that I actually collect complete in-box for. And this is because their boxes are plastic, so they stand the test of time, unlike all those cardboard, paper-thin boxes that Nintendo used to like, which is why I have so many of them here. Eventually, I want my entire Genesis collection, 32X, and Master System collection to be complete in box. That's something I'm aiming for. A few shoutouts to Master System here would be the original Sonic on the Sega Master System. Now, this copy I have here is actually the North American release. As well, Space Harrier is a pretty good one, and also the original Phantasy Star deserves a shoutout. Now, filling up the rest of that first row and some of the second row is my Sega Genesis collection complete in box, which I've been slowly filling out. Special shoutout, of course, to Battletoads, but more seriously to Phantasy Star 4, one of the best in the entire series, or this Shadow the Hedgehog ROM hack, which is super fun and cool, or even Coffee Crisis here, a homebrew game by Megacat Studios. Next to Genesis, I have my 32X complete in box collection, which is not that impressive. I only own 4 32X games in total. And next to that is my Sega CD collection, which is in a little bit of a weird state. As you notice, a lot of the different boxes there don't have spines. That's because all I had was the discs and maybe the manual. On the Sega CD, special shout out to Sonic City, one of the best Sonic games I've ever played, or to Night Trap, one of the weirdest FMV games I've ever played that for some reason is way more popular than it should be. Then on the shelf next to that is the start of my Gamecube collection. Now again, I don't own a lot of Gamecube games, but I'm slowly filling it out over the years as I go, and I love the Gamecube. It's such a fun system. Like, I wish I had this as a kid. Special shout out on the Cube goes to Super Smash Bros. Melee, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, which I still think is the best Paper Mario game ever, The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, or this GameCube Game Boy Player installation running disc thing here. This disc can actually be kind of hard to find. And then below this is actually my Wii collection, which, as you notice, is a fairly decent sized collection, I would have to say, more than GameCube anyways. Not that I'm a huge fan of the Wii, but I find these games are really easy to pick up for cheap, so whenever I see a good one or one that looks funny, I pick it up. Special shout out to Super Mario Bros. Wii, Dokapon Kingdom, or A Boy and His Blob. top. Now my Wii U collection is kind of fitting for the Wii U, very small. There's not a lot to it, just like the Wii U. There just wasn't that much great release that I really wanted to pick out. If I had to give a shout out here, I would probably shout out the Wind Waker HD remake, very fun game, or Nintendo Land, very fun if you have friends, or maybe Super Mario 3D World, which is still a very fun 3D Mario game, which as of right now, as of this video, has not come out on the Switch yet. Then below that is one of my biggest collections, which is actually the PlayStation 2, a system I absolutely love and what I would consider to be my favorite system of all time. Special shout out on this console goes out to Katamari Damacy, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, or the Lord of the Rings Return of the King. Very, very fun games. And then below that finally is my PlayStation 3 collection, another console that I really, really enjoy. Special shout out on the PS3 to the Kingdom Hearts 1.5 HD collection, one of the best ways to play those games. Fallout 3, an amazing game and one of my favorite games of all time. And a Little Big Planet, I think it was a launch title, but I ended up playing the crap out of that game. Alright guys, so that's my summer 2020 game room tour. I tried to cover a little bit of everything and without going too far in depth. There's a lot of stuff that I could have talked a lot more about, but I figured you guys probably didn't want to watch like an hour plus video. But I think that's a pretty good overview of kind of like what this game room is. Again, I have a very small amount of space to work with, so I try and make the most of it. And I still am expanding. I do still buy new games, so it is becoming a little bit challenging, so I kind of have to figure some stuff out in the future. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this game room. I like this room a lot. I come in here all the time to record videos like I'm doing now, to play video games, and to just kind of chill. Like, it's just a really fun space to be in. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to check out my other videos on the channel and subscribe so you know when the next ones come out. And as always, guys, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.